Michael, could you please record?
Fabulous. Good afternoon, everybody. This meeting is being held on Wednesday, March 13, 2024. The meeting of the Sweetwater Authority Board of Directors is called to order. Board members and members of the public may attend in person. Additionally, some board members may attend the meeting virtually pursuant to the Brown Act. As a convenience to the public, the authority provides a call-in option, an internet-based option for members of the public to virtually observe and provide public comments at its meetings. Instructions for virtual observation and participation were included in the agenda. Members of the public attending the meeting in person may submit a public comment slip and submit it to the board chair or secretary prior to the start of an agenda item. Members of the public attending virtually via the Zoom webinar or call-in option may also make public comments on an agenda item during the meeting by raising their hand via Zoom webinar, by clicking on the raise hand button, and via phone by pressing star 9. Please note that in the event of a disruption in the call-in or internet-based option for observing and/or participating in this meeting, the meeting will continue unless the director is attending the meeting virtually pursuant to certain provisions of the Brown Act. Do we have anyone participating remotely today? No? Okay, great. We can now proceed to call roll. Director Calderon Scott. Here. Director Castañeda. Here. Director Delgado.
Here.
Director Martinez.
Here.
Director Martinez Perez. Here. Director Morrison is absent. Director Yamani. Here. Thank you. Great. With that, we're going to move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Director Martinez, would you do us the honor?
It would be my pleasure. Please stand if you are able. Right hand over your head, over your heart. Oh, begin.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I was going way back.
Thank you, Director. We're not going to move on to opportunity for public comment. We will not hear public comments on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the authority that are not on the agenda. Board Secretary, are there any public comments?
Yes, Chair. We have 3 public comments in person and 1 public comment online.
Okay, can we start with the online comment, actually?
Sure, 1 moment. Ms. Wood, you will be allowed to speak. You have 3 minutes. Ms. Wood, please unmute yourself. You have the floor.
Sorry about that. My name is Karen Wood, and I'm on the board of Friends of Loveland Reservoir. I recently replayed your engineering and operation meeting from February 20th, and that included a discussion about replacing the damaged portion of the floating dock. I want to remind everyone that in 2002 and 2003, Sweetwater was given a grant of just under $700,000 from an East County lawmaker for fishing program improvements. It was supposed to be spent on the floating bridge across the southern portion of Loveland Reservoir to build a floating dock. Sweetwater determined the bridge was not practical, but did spend approximately $120,000 on the floating dock. There was a mention of building 2 wooden bridges and trail improvements with the rest of the money to quote unquote allow for safer access to the recreational area. To my knowledge, those projects were never done, and I don't know what happened to the rest of the $550,000. After the Deadpool draining of Loveland in late 2003, Sweetwater was warned that leaving the floating dock in mud would likely result in damage, but no action was taken by Sweetwater to protect the dock. So the rain came, we know, and the dock was destroyed. Now Sweetwater have received insurance proceeds that will cover nearly 100% of the cost to replace that dock. But Director Castaneda claims that perhaps the money would be, quote unquote, spent best elsewhere. Given everything that occurred, not replacing the fishing dock feels to me like a misappropriation of federal taxpayer funds. That money came from the East County for Loveland and should be kept there. I'm asking Sweetwater to do the right thing here. I know you're going to vote on it at your next board meeting. I know it's not on the agenda, but I want you to think about it. Sure, you can transfer those funds to the general fund, but there's this saying that applies very well here. Just because you can, don't mean you should. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mike Campbell.
Mr. Sampson? It's your turn, Mr. Sampson.
Stay under 3 minutes.
Let's not try and let's do. Thank you, though.
Tonight I'd like to go back in history a few years. There were two engineers that looked at a pipeline between Loveland and Sweetwater. I think their names were Schlesinger and Sampson. Let me give you a hypothetical if that pipeline existed. There's almost 21,000 acre feet of water in Loveland. If you needed all of that water, and would have to import water at about $1,300 an acre foot or so, maybe it's $1,380, but would have to transfer water from Loveland, and assuming that 25 to 30% would be lost during the transfer. That's typical, I think. So let's use 25% loss. That would mean that you would lose 5,250 acre feet of water at $1,300 an acre foot. $1,500 and conservative, that's $6.8 million. $7 million had that pipeline been built. Of course, I've used rounded numbers, but they're approximate. What's missing now in the analysis of that is how much it costs to build that pipeline. And that's an easy number to compare with about $7 million. Plus the other advantages of not having to lose all of that water coming down the Sweetwater River. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson.
The next speaker is Karen Henry.
And another individual gave their time to Miss Karen Henry, so Miss Karen Henry will have 6 minutes.
Yeah, Martinez Perez, board members. My name is Karen Henry. I live in Bonita. I thought your strategic plan workshop was good. I believe that you will reap rewards from the time well spent. For me, it didn't change much. I'm still waiting to see CIP best practices, but I know that they are coming on a timeline that I don't control. I agree with Director Castaneda. It's time to deliver projects. Good news, your engineering staff has a plan as long as the money holds out. And yes, Mayor Morrison, I can read my comments later. I also favor going after good projects, not letting the chase of state and federal handouts put the cart before the horse or determine timing. Find the balance. The CIP at its highest level is simply 3 things: replacement, betterment, and expansion. Where we may disagree, I do not have tolerance for high risk. High risk is private sector thinking, innovation, cutting edge, move fast and break things. It is also the world of unintended consequences. Speculative endeavors would be what I call playing fast and loose with ratepayer dollars. The rewards are great, but the risks are great as well. One such initiative is on tonight's consent agenda. Risks relegated to a level of unimportance. This board made a choice to favor new water supply and renewable energy over infrastructure renewal spending long ago. And here's from May 20th, 2019 strategic plan workshop. Your workshop last week did not change that. It reminded everyone of the choices that had already been made. But as my mother used to say, money does not grow on trees. At some point, the board will need to decide what is essential and what is nice to have. My number one will always be investment in the existing infrastructure. Your engineering consultants have made recommendations. I've seen them, yet no one is talking about them in this boardroom. Should a catastrophic failure disrupt your operations and cost you a pretty penny, well, I told you so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henry.
That's the end of public comment, Chair.
Might I say that everybody.
There's a reason. Oh, no, that's dangerous, Mayor. Thank you so much. We're gonna move on to the action calendar agenda. I do not believe there are items to be added, withdrawn, or reordered. Am I wrong?
No, Chair, we propose to keep the order as presented on the agenda.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to approval of minutes, regular board meeting of February 28th, 2024. This is the opportunity for members of the public to speak on item 6. Board Secretary, are there any public comments?
There's no public comments, Chair.
Thank you so much. Do I defer to the general manager on this? No, no, right? No, I thought that was weird. Okay, no, it's okay. Are there any comments, concerns? And if not, is there a motion on the table for the agenda? I mean, for the approval of minutes, yes. Thank you.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Director Castaneda. Thank you, Director Martinez. There's no follow-up. Secretary?
Director Calderon Scott? Aye. Director Castañeda?
Yes.
Director Delgado?
Aye.
Director Martinez?
Aye.
Director Martinez Perez?
Aye.
Director Morrison? Director Yamani? The motion passes with Directors Calderon Scott, Castañeda, Delgado, Martinez, Martinez Perez, Yamani in favor, and Director Morrison abstaining.
Thank you. Moving on to 7 consent calendar items. This is the opportunity for members of the public to speak on the consent calendar items. Board Secretary, are there any members of the public that would like to be heard?
Yes, Chair, we will. We have a public comment for item 7.5.
Okay, so we will pull that. Anyone else need to pull anything on this board? Okay, so how about we move the rest and then we'll leave 7.5 out?
Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and move a consent calendar consisting of items 7.1, 7.2, 7.4, 7.6, and 7.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, directors. With that, Secretary.
I'd like to pull an item.
Okay. Can we, or no, there's already a motion, so.
There's already a
Yeah.
motion. Okay, I'd like to make a substitute motion
Which is?
to pull item 7.5.
It's already been pulled.
Oh,
So the motion, yes, so the motion is to approve 7.1 through 7.7 and removing 7.5.
okay. So then my vote is aye.
Great. Great.
Resounding yes.
Director Delgado?
Aye.
Director Martinez?
Yes.
Director Martinez Perez?
Aye.
Director Morrison? Director Yamani. Motion passes unanimously.
Great. Great that things are working out. With that, we're gonna move on to 7.5, and our public comment is from,
Karen Henry.
it's Karen Henry. You have the floor.
Mayor Martinez Perez and board members, my name is Karen Henry and I live in Benita. I pulled this item for two reasons. One is I wanted to see you vote. And the second was to applaud the general manager. He had good information to justify localized dredging during the E&O committee. He had a name for the new project. He had a value of the water that would be gained with the dredging. Yet I was a little surprised to see that the recommendation came forward on consent. I'd like to see the board support the general manager and assistant general manager with their new CIP best practices that they've established. They have a new project threshold that they have determined. And it just seems to me that this project, revised project, warrants going through that process. So I'm just allowing you to tell me what you think about that. Support your general manager, and kudos to the general manager for being Johnny on the spot with information at the E&O committee. Thank you.
That's the end of public comment, Chair.
Thank you so much. Director Calderon Scott, you wanted to pull 7.5. Do you have any? You go first.
There were only three of us at the meeting,
Yeah.
so perhaps staff should move
Yeah.
forward on a presentation.
I
Explain
can,
exactly what the
sure.
presentation was, what the recommendation, and what the action.
Can we, before we do that, did you have a specific question, Director Calderon Scott, that he could address?
Sure.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Director, your microphone.
Yeah, no problem. I
Support really everyone listening to it because it was a very robust discussion. And I think, everyone should be included.
Okay, sounds good.
I'd be happy to do that, Chair. So this is, we've been working at this project. It's gone through many iterations. Originally it was brought as a sand mining project. When I looked at this project in my early months here at the authority, I did recognize that there's more value than just the resource recovery portion, that's the sand mining. It's more of a resource recovery. Reservoirs do accumulate material. That's just the nature of rivers and so forth. There's value in improving water quality and enhancing storage. So that's why the project was reframed as a reservoir enhancement project to really recognize that it's just more than one dimension, right? We went through the effort. We worked closely with Benchmark Resources. Kudos to staff. We spent a lot of time working with our legal counsel, working with Benchmark Resources to try to put a project that could be of interest to the private sector. We venture this really with an open mind to see what is out there, right? We need to figure out what is the private sector willing to do in our reservoir. We spend quite a bit of resources trying to characterize what materials are there. And honestly, we thought the plan that we put together was good. I mean, it wasn't certainly something that was going to bring millions to the agency. That was not certainly in the cards, but we thought that a modest amount and something that could help us with our other two goals, which is the water quality and the supply augmentation, if you will, would be worth it. We sent the RFP to about 60 firms, Eric, I think, about 60 firms, and we received only 2 responses. 2 big firms, not to minimize. I think they're well known. That's what they do, and we work with them. We crafted the RFP, the terms, and working closely with all of you. And unfortunately, the interest is not there at this point, right? We did go back and listen what what drove them away, if you will. And it's just, my sense is that it's a combination. There's certainly risk working behind a reservoir. I mean, I think we all recognize that. And quite honestly, I think right now there's still ample supply of material. It's just not the time. Now, does it mean that it's going to be always this way? Probably not. But we'll have to adapt, right? And maybe now, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years, I'm not sure. But certainly with the data that we have, we do think that there's value in the material that's there. It's going to take some work, but it's really all driven by supply and demand and what the market conditions. Well, so let's so what we try to do with this item is say, look, the market is not there to support this. However, there's a need, right? I still have not given up on the other two, the water quality and the supply augmentation, because I think those are really, really critical to the work that we do. We saw this firsthand back in December of 2022 when we had 4,000 acre-feet of water at Sweetwater Reservoir, and we could not really treat any more water. It was too murky. That water is really problematic. And it basically means that when we look at a reservoir with a 28,000 acre-feet capacity, 4,000 of it, about 15% we can, right? So I think there is value in pursuing whatever's needed to dredge, to clean that area by the intake tower and make things much easier for our water quality team, and really to be able to provide more water when conditions are dry. And cycles, right now we're in a good cycle, but what's going to come in the next decade, I don't know, right? So I think that it might be the time where we might need as much of that water to be able to be treated as possible. So I think pursuing a strategy to clean the area by the intake tower is a good one. Now, how much is this going to cost? We don't know, right? That's where I know we did talk about a concept that we're calling capacity restoration. I think that is in line with the water quality and supply augmentation. And all we did was basically seek direction from the committee. Is this something that is of interest? And my understanding is that yes, there was a request to bring more background information, which we did with this memo. But we as staff will be looking at a plan and coming to the board and presenting it. It's not going to be cheap. I certainly am not a dredging expert. I don't really think any of us staff are, but when we don't have that expertise, we look, and that is what we are committed to doing, is coming up with a plan that we present to you and say, look, this is how much it's going to cost. It's going to cost, throw a number, 2 million, 3 million, but these are the benefits, right? And if it means that when we're in a cycle of drought, that we're going to be able to use 1,000 acre feet at $1,389 that we pay the county water authority, that's almost $1.4 million, right? So if we can use 2,000 acre feet by doing this, that puts us at almost $2.8 million, right? That is a big chunk of change. That is water that we can use in good quality. So that is the goal. We'll be looking at this, given certainly with your direction, at least starting the environmental review. That would have to happen, and then looking for a plan, or coming up with a plan that will be presented to you along with the cost and the benefit for direction. So I just wanted to share that. I think that is the rationale why we're doing this. It's not necessarily a step back. I just think it's pursuing one of the components in this project. Are we going to spend time pursuing what we started? It's really going to be up to you. I think we have a really good opportunity in the next workshops to see how much of that you want us to continue or pursue, right? I think that's the conversation is right for that. But for now, I think our recommendation is to really focus on the water quality and the supply augmentation portion of the reservoir enhancement. We're calling it capacity restoration. We'll be looking for funding if our legislators have funding available to help us with this. So that is in summary, the rationale behind this item.
Go ahead.
Well, I also wanted to add that, and it is for part and parcel of water quality, it's the necessity of dredging around the aerations.
That's right.
That basically will you know, we really didn't talk about that, but because there's so much murky sediment at the bottom, and we were explained at the engineering committee, it's going to be very difficult to anchor that system to the reservoir floor. So that localized dredging is critical. That's probably one. When the time's right, Madam Chair, I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Any other comments, Director Martinez?
I just wanted to say that I totally agree with the manager, fully support what he's doing. The market conditions at this point with sand coming in, a lot of sand coming in from Mexico and from Riverside and other places has really driven the price of sand in the area, making it not feasible. I fully understand the market condition. Or at least my main motivation has always been storage capacity reestablishment. And I've always looked at this project as a maintenance project. So when I hear people saying that we're neglecting maintenance, but we are doing maintenance at the reservoir, there's all these different kinds of maintenance, right? Pipelines, reservoirs, weed abatement, paving in the tank size, all different kinds of maintenance. This is one very important maintenance that will help our ratepayers capture more water at probably the lowest cost possible, and it's going to pay for itself. So I am in full support of this item and look forward to voting on it.
Great. Director Morrison?
Yeah, question I have is that basically if there's not a market right now for the dredgings, the material, what is going to be the cost on that over and above dredging itself? What is our plan for what we're going to do with the dredging material?
I can answer that. Good question, Rick Morrison. So, most likely there's silt material that is not really usable. I don't think we can, it's literally material to be disposed of. As part of this plan, we'll come up with options for that. I mean, there'll be a cost. We do recognize that there'll be a cost. But the intent is to offset that with the availability of additional water, basically. That's what we're looking for. And if the numbers pan out, if it makes sense, I certainly would be making a recommendation to the board for that. But yes, that is one of the issues. In fact, when we talk to the operators, the potential operators, that was one of their concerns, because we're looking at it from the standpoint of water quality. Operators are looking at it from the perspective of their bottom line, right? So for them, this is not very valuable material, but it's something that we want and it's as our interest. So that material will be removed and put somewhere. We'll look at our availability of land. We'll do that as part of the environmental evaluation, if that's the direction that we get from you as the board. But certainly that's on our mind, and considering that is material of fairly low value, but at the same time, we haven't really done much maintenance in Sweetwater Reservoir as far as removal of any material. So I think the time to consider this is right.
Yes. No, I agree. I think, whatever dredging that we can do, not only does it increase the capacity of the reservoir, but even if we have the exact same amount of water in the reservoir, any time that we deepen it, it shrinks your surface area, so less evaporation. So I mean, there's a lot of benefits to increasing the depth in any way that we can on that. I just want to make sure that we have all the factors in front of us. And, and personally, I don't want to get into side businesses, sand mining. I mean, if it's part of a project, that's fine. But I just want no more than I had a problem with San Diego, the County Water Authority getting into the electricity business, which I think they regret now. But yeah, we need to stick to water.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Director.
And I kind of felt like at the committee meeting that we all agreed that the direction we're going is, while radically different than where we started, that it is really closer to the core of our mission in terms of storage capacity and water quality. So I wholeheartedly support that. And I know that we're going to be seeking, grant opportunities, and that we're kind of shifting also our environmental review. And, so I think it's enough that what I don't understand, or where I'd like to be clear, is whether there remains any evidence within this project of sand mining.
I can answer that. I based on the characterization of the material, Director Calderon Scott, I don't think there's much. I mean, there may be some sounds, but nothing. Our intent is not to go in and recover any resources. We're trying to clean the area in conjunction, as Director Castañeda mentioned, with the aeration, right? You want to have basically a clean slate. You want to start with good water quality, and so your aeration project becomes more effective. I think, if I remember correctly, most of the sand, the valuable material, was certainly further upstream, not where we're planning to do this dredging.
Okay, so it's not like a part one, and then there's going to be a part two.
Not at this point. I mean, I think the recommendation is to clean that area by dredging. And again, if this is something that you as the board want to keep in the back burner for some time, I mean, certainly the opportunity will come for you to let me know and direct me as part of the detailed work plan. But at this point, we're shifting gears a little bit and just focusing on the dredging of the silt material for water quality and capacity restoration purposes.
And I think that that's why I'm looking for clarity, that maybe I know that we're working towards developing project descriptions. And so that we'll, I imagine have one of those in the website. And whether, because my constituents and others, do ask me, and I want to make sure that we're clear on the project, because I do think that it's a standalone with the revisions that we're making, that it does really go for, I mean, it's a strong project on its own that I think a lot of people could get behind. And I was just concerned about keeping it, whether it's still kind of the same and it still has the same name of enhancement, because I like the new name that you gave it, that I thought would be strong in terms of going after some of that grant money. And I don't remember what the name was, but it was like what was it?
We do have, I'm sure we have a project flyer somewhere. Representative Congressman Juan Vargas staff did tell us that there was a Water Resources Development Act program that is run by the Army Corps of Engineers, and I think we did throw our name in the hat as far as projects that could potentially have to go through the Corps of Engineers. So I think we did provide this information, so that might be what you're referring to. So WRDA, Water Resources Development Act. And as we move forward with our meeting with our legislators and federal delegation, this is something that we could always bring back. We have a lot of need, and any support from our legislators is always very helpful.
Okay.
But I'm sure I'll email all of you a copy of this.
So again, just to be clear, so sand mining is out.
Well,
right?
it's not
For now. If it comes back, we reintroduce it.
I mean, at this point, we've done what the board directed us to do, and the market is nothing. Now, it's going to be up to you to tell me, should we continue to pursue it or not? I mean, I think at this point, we feel that our obligations fulfilled. But right now, this specific effort is not for the resource recovery. It will be resource recovery as far as silt material that I don't think has very good use. But not to the extent that, we want to sell sand. No. We just don't. We're dredging, we're cleaning. It's a maintenance activity. We're trying to clean this. I don't, Eric, I mean, based on the characterization, the sand is not at this location. I mean, there might be some, but it's not I mean, I don't think that's not the purpose. Yeah.
Good. Okay, we're clarified. Director Martinez?
I just, I do sense a lot of confusion when I hear, radically different, like what I see is a reduction of the project because there's no market for sand mining. I will remind, I know that we're not the same board that originally approved this, that the objective was to save the ratepayers money so that they would not have to pay for the dredging. The sale of sand was what was going to pay for the dredging. Now we're going to have to pay if we want to increase the storage capacity. If we want to reestablish the storage capacity, we're going to have to pay for it. What I hear the manager saying now and what he has said before is that he's going to focus on the area that's near to the dam, that's near to the intake tower, where water quality is super, super important. By removing this silt, the need for chemicals will go down because we're going to have a nice, clean area. And the difference here is that we're going to have to pay for it. The silt that is near to the dam and near to the discharge pipe and near to the intake tower is not good stuff. It's silt. And we're going to have to get rid of it somewhere. And they're going to look into it. He just said that there's no cost yet. They're going to shop around. He just said that they're not dredging experts. They're going to look for people that do this. And they're going to come back with a project. I don't understand what's so confusing about that, but I look forward to working on it.
Well, I'm glad you helped clear it up even more. With that, if there are no other questions, I believe Director Castañeda, did he officially, he made the motion? I don't think you said that you wanted to. I don't want to let you.
I wanted to, and I will.
Okay.
Unless there needs to be more clarification, because it sounds like.
Good, we're all
you know,
clear.
we're only around the dam, intake tower and aeration facility.
And we're going with the staff recommendation, right?
Yes.
Right. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Director Delgado. With that, Madam Secretary?
Director Calderon Scott, Director Castañeda,
Yes.
Director Delgado,
Aye.
Director Martinez,
Yes.
Director Martinez Perez,
Aye.
Director Morrison,
Aye.
Director Yamani. The motion passes unanimously.
Great. We're moving on to new business 8.1, consideration to provide additional funds to the Water Conservation Garden. This is the opportunity for members of the public to speak on item 8.1. Board Secretary, are there any members of the public that would like to be heard?
Yes, Chair, we have one speaker, Karen Henry.
Or
Mayor Martinez Perez, board members, I learned about this commitment from reading the East County paper. So I feel that you already know what you're obligated to do. I just want to reiterate what I learned by going back into the record. And that is something I heard said last June. You acknowledge that you get very little benefit back from the garden. And so it just seems to me, when you're trying to decide where to put good use of your ratepayer dollars, this partnership is something that you should consider seriously restructuring so you get some kind of return. My husband and I used to be members of the garden. We have won the honor from the Sweetwater for California Friendly Yard. But the reality is, the people in my neighborhood are going to come talk to me. They're not going to go out to the garden. The people in these other communities, they're going to talk to their neighbors. They're going to go to YouTube. They're going to go to other places. So I was just there for Tomato Mania. Nobody asked my zip code. Nobody was doing inventory to see what type of traffic you were getting. So I just want to let you know that this one's on you. Spend as long as you want on it, but it's a little dollars as opposed to big dollars. But it speaks louder to people like me who know that you're really not getting anything. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Henry.
That's the end of public comment, Chair.
Thank you. I will defer to the general manager.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So, as you know, there's been quite a bit of change as far as the operation of the garden, the Water Conservation Garden, JPA. That's 6 agencies: Cuyamaca College, City of San Diego, County Water Authority, Helix, OTI, Deep Water Authority. The JPA has taken over the operation. What's going to happen, really, it's a bit unclear. However, there is a need right now for funding to allow this transition into what's going on now, and really the long-term plan for the JPA. The authority committed, for the operating agreement that I think is suspended, correct me if I'm wrong, Paula, on this. But we're committed to provide $48,000 from July 1, 2024. But that's a long time from now when there's a need for cash flow. The JPA is asking for a contribution of $4,000 from each one of the 5 members except the college. The college does not contribute financially because they provide the land. And the idea is that this would be a very short-term contribution, very no more than really 4 months. So the maximum at this point that is being asked of the authority is $16,000. And there's options, really. There's options to consider: a month-to-month contribution of $4,000, or a 2-month contribution total of $8,000, or nothing at all, or the $16,000. But the reality is that there's a need for cash flow, and there's also a need to continue the conversation within the JPA as to what the future awaits. I don't think we have those answers necessarily, but I wanted to bring this to your attention and your consideration. If this is something that you as a board are interested in contributing these bridging funds, if you will, to allow this orderly transition to happen, with the understanding that there needs to be a continued dialogue within the JPA as to how this garden is going to look like. So that is my brief report on this, and I will happy to answer any questions or seek any direction. And Paula, anything you'd like to add?
No, other than, there is definitely a transition. The Friends of the Garden, who were the contracting entity for purposes of the operating agreement, is no longer, and that agreement, I understand that the JPA has hired counsel, so that way they can help pursue any remedies that might be available to the JPA as it relates to that operating agreement. This authority is one of the member agencies that did agree to be part of the Water Conservation Garden Authority to create this garden, right? And to support its operations, because at the time, especially, it was in furtherance of the authority believed at the time, and might still, that it's in furtherance of the authority's mission to promote conservation. The agreement does, as is, and the board might remember this from the last budgetary cycle, every year this board does consider whether or not to provide funding for the next fiscal year, or whether or not it wants to send in its notice to withdraw from the JPA under the JPA agreement. And I guess the idea is so that way it doesn't cut off the JPA, down all at once. it requires a 1 year advance notice. So any notice to withdraw from the JP, which that decision is not before the board today, but just so you know, it has to be provided within the first month of the fiscal year. So within January of this year, it would have any notice to withdraw if that's what the board ends up deciding to do later on, as part of your budgetary review process and approval process. That withdrawal, if you so do that, would be effective on July 1st, 2025. So just to forecast that will be coming, I think it kind of informs your discussion here today, but I think everything else was covered by your general meeting.
Thank you. Director Morrison?
Yes, thank you. How much did we budget for this year?
This fiscal year,
Yes.
so as legal counsel mentioned, the prior, we had to commit a year ahead of time. So this year, back in July 1, 2023, we provided 48,000.
So $48,000.
Yes.
And now that has lasted, not our contribution and the other contributions, not lasting 12 months, they've only lasted 8 months. Is that what we're hearing?
My understanding is that the Friends of the Garden used up all the budget.
In
That's
8
my
months instead of
understanding.
in 12 months.
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
kind of figuring in my head.
Okay.
So in effect, what we're saying is that this year we would need to contribute $64,000, which is
Potentially up to that much if that's what the board
Yeah, this
wants.
So I guess, we talk a lot about gift of public funds, and I'm sorry to interject here, but, it is within the contemplation of this agreement that the Sweetwater Authority is part of this JPA in furtherance of the goal and the mission of the JPA. This is additional funding beyond, but would still be considered not a gift of public funds, because it would, so long as the board feels that it's a good use of funds to continue and provide this gap funding or bridge funding, as your general manager described. But this isn't required. The JPA board took action to request its member agencies. It couldn't bind its member agencies to make these contributions. So that's why this decision is before you today.
Thank you.
so,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
okay. So in other words, as I said, so we're being asked to, for this year's contribution, we made to 64,000 instead of the 48,000 that we did. And because I said they used up the total year budget in 8 months, basically what happened. Yeah, I can only give my own reflection on this, and I stated it this last year. I really feel the amount of benefit that Sweetwater residents receive out of this is pretty minimal. I think it's a great humanitarian effort, but I'm just not too sure what people in our district here really get out of this. And now to put it up to $64,000, when I know there was a lot of hesitation back last June when we looked at the budget of even doing the 48,000 and not giving a year's notice at that time. So anyway, just my thoughts.
Thank you. I want to go to Director Martinez and then Director Calderon-Scott.
Mayor Morrison, this was not a humanitarian effort, it was a vegetarian effort. But I'm not in support of any further funding. I'm a little bit surprised, and that might be my lack of understanding, how when somebody breaches or breaks the trust that you have in them, and you don't have any clarity, are you expected to continue to contribute? But maybe later on we can talk about that. I'm not in support of any further funding. I'm disappointed with the lack of transparency, and I'm also disappointed with the multiple unanswered requests for accountability. As far as I can remember, since I've been on this board, we've been asking, give us numbers, how many people, how many from the South Bay, how many from the National City. Oh, sure, we'll get back to you. And at least 6 years have gone by. And from my perspective, they have plenty of time to be transparent. We have people overseeing these people, and I don't think anybody here knows what really happened. You know, nobody really knows. I don't know what really happened. I don't know why we're in this situation. And I think it's a little bit of an insult for somebody to come back and ask you for more money. You know, and it might be again that I just don't understand, but it just doesn't check, you know. And hopefully, with these new people coming in, they can provide clarity. But it's going to take time for me to be in support of this. I need to see transparency, and then Mayor Morrison is also bringing other points about, do we really want to continue once they can establish or explain what happened? You know, I'm not very optimistic that I, you know, I think there are plenty of other opportunities, things that we can do nearby, you know, that we can probably get more bang for our ratepayers' money. Thank you.
Yes. Did you have anything to say, General Manager?
I'd like to just clarify, in response to Director Martinez. So we're dealing with two different things here. One, the Friends of the Garden, they were a separate, organization, nonprofit. They were the ones operating, they were the ones in default of the obligation, right?
Correct.
That's gone. The Friends contract, that's been terminated. That's my understanding. This is really the JPA itself. So the member agencies asking for money to allow this transition into how is this going to look like in the future. I understand that there's a lot of disappointment, that there's, trust was broken, but really the trust was broken between the Friends of the Garden and the JPA. Right now is the JPA asking for this contribution, not the Friends of the Garden. It's a way to, the real question is this something that is worth saving or not, right? And if it's worth saving, or at least having a discussion whether it's worth saving, they need this contribution. They can't really operate without short-term infusion of cash. That's why this request is being made. So I just wanted to clarify things. It's not the issue with the JPA. It's really the Friends of the Garden is really the JPA at this point.
To clarify though, that the JPA plans to hire 2 staff members from the Friends of the Garden to oversee.
They are
Right?
they need a groundskeeper, somebody that can keep up the the grounds and groundskeeper, and then somebody to just run the army of volunteers for the short term and provide any other type of administrative support. That's the 2 employees that the JPA would look at hiring in the very short term until there's really
A plan.
clarity in terms of how this is going to look.
Thank you, Director Calderon Scott.
Even under this new arrangement, you know, I've been listening to this for 7 years and it hasn't gotten any better. I've been there recently a couple times. On one of the times I was there like half a day. And in that half a day, I saw maybe 5. And none of them looked like, from South County. And when I did check in, I said, "Aren't you going to ask us, where we're from?" And she said, "No," looked at me like, why are you asking? I said, "Well, you're supposed to be." And he said, "I've been here," he had been there like a year or so and hadn't been doing it and wasn't aware that anyone was supposed to be doing it. To me, we just can't keep putting more money into something that's not working for us. At least with Healy and Otay, they're there. They're up close to the garden. They do get some benefit. We don't get a benefit. It's been super, super small. And even then, when we got it, it's because we were paying additional for a bus to take students or our collateral material. So to me, I think it's time to really focus on making that investment here. Southwestern Junior College has a program. Maybe we could start developing something there. I think the messaging is good. The concept is excellent. but let's put our money where our ratepayers could really benefit from it.
Thank you, Director Calderon. Scott? Director Castañeda?
Thanks, Mr. Representative. Here, my years. Conservation Guard, I take umbrage with the fact is that it's only been recently, it's not old. Unfortunately, the Friends of the Garden, who as a nonprofit separate from the JPA, made the decision unilaterally to hire the management people they hired. It was a disaster. There was nothing we could do about it. We continuously asked for information on attendance. And I think that it even got so bad at one point where I called one of the board members at Friends and demanded that the executive director come down here because I was concerned about whether or not this board would support continued participation in the JPA. She did. They maintain numbers. Now, of course, we don't have the numbers in terms of people that visit the garden from our district. Because we don't live that close. I mean, we're not that close. But the other thing is we don't pay as much. They pay probably 25 to 30% more than we do. So I think that there's some distinctions here. The other thing I think that needs to be, and Paula can essentially verify. The other thing that needs to be clear is that we're contractually required for at least another year to provide the money. Now we can do two things. We can basically say, no, we're not going to give you $12,000 and watch the place close up and everything go by the wayside. And then I don't know who that. Or we can decide, let's give them the $4,000. Let's give it count it as a credit against next year's basically a contribution, which we could do, I would think, right?
I think right now, just in answer to that, I think the JPA board needs to figure out how it's going to structure whatever the budget is, because the agreement speaks to contributions based on an operating agreement, and there is no operating agreement right now. So yeah.
That arrangement is available. Okay. The other thing is, what I would say is that we tender a letter to the JPA that basically we want to exercise our option to remove ourselves from the JPA next year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paula. If we decide mid-year that we don't want to do that, we don't necessarily have to. I mean, they can accept this again. I mean, I know that Padre Dam did the same thing several years ago, and there was some consideration going back in. But anyway, I think that preserves our option in case, things don't move. But I think that you have people there now, the JPA, that are very, very interested in establishing an operating plan that is not the operating plan that the Friends basically, that they implemented. I think that there is the need for an operating agreement with the JPA would be the operators. And from my understanding is the college basically wants to take over a lot of the operations because it's part of their, it is part of their, some of their curriculum. So they have the ability, correct me if I'm Jesus, the chancellor has basically been in all of our meetings and she's indicated that that's something. So, and I want to remind this board, at least the people here, who spent a lot of hours talking about other options here in the district and kind of like the pump station beautification, we can't afford to do that. So either we're all in or we're all out, so I would suggest sort of a more complicated sort of approach is because we have to pay the money anyway. I mean, we're on it. We're on, as long as that JPA is in existence, we got to give them $48,000. Let's talk about the $4,000 a month to keep them afloat. essentially within the first 2 months, I would like to see an operating plan. I think this board deserves to see an operating plan, how it's going to be accomplished and exactly what's going to be required from all of the members. That needs to occur. That's benchmark number one. Benchmark number two, after four months, and it could be inverted, it doesn't really matter, but I think an operating anything is that we have an operating agreement that establishes what the potential JPA membership, what their roles are. We could basically negotiate a different contribution, so forth and so on. And if any of those things, any or all of those things don't meet the muster of this board, then we exercise our option to basically pull out at the beginning of the fiscal year next year. And we're done. That's it. But I don't think it really makes a lot of sense to basically say, we're not going to give you any until next year and watch the thing basically die. And if we decide we want to go back in, it's going to cost a little more to basically resuscitate all of the, installations. So I think that maybe we sort of measure a little bit. We, like I said before, we protect our options and our protections for the board. We tender the letter whenever it's due, whenever we need to have it. And we ask them that, okay, we're willing to give you a loan, an upfront, whatever you want to call it, and basically say, if you don't meet we think you ought to do these milestones, then we're gonna pull the trigger and essentially exercise our right to withdraw from the JPA. And at the end of the day, it won't cost a penny more than what we already are going to have to pay. So I that's the sort of the compromise I'd like to offer, and I don't know if anybody would want to discuss.
Yes, I know, Dr. Morrison. I just have a question. If we already have to give them 48 grand, can we start giving the $4,000 and that could be credited towards the 48 grand? Has that option been?
It's a good question, Chair, and we thought about that, but really this is something that would have to be discussed within the conference of the JPA. So there's an agreement for us to provide 48,000. I think the opportunity is there to say, yes, we'll give you 8,000, but guess what? July 1, we're going to give you 40,000. But that is up to the JPA to decide. I think following up on Director Castañeda, just allowing us to buy us time to make these decisions and have this discussion. And certainly that is a possibility that we rob them a little bit of what we already committed to. But at this point, it will have to be up to the JPA whether that contribution could change in one way or another. Whether the money gets provided now, part of it later.
Is there?
We could make it a condition of them accepting. Which
Yes.
I think they would.
Yeah.
And is there like a deadline for when they would like this decision about the $4,000?
They have requested, what's been expressed to me by Brian Olney, Helix General Manager, is that by March 15th, that's when they want to see that's
Yeah,
right.
and one of the things, that I understand is that the JPA has hired counsel to represent it as it relates to any potential recourse that it has against the actions, activities, non-compliance with the operating agreement by the folks that were running the Friends of the Garden. And so there might be some, I don't know, but there might be some opportunity for recovery. I don't know. I don't sit in closed session with, I don't know. But that is also a potential.
Director Morrison?
Yes, now we know that the Friends never really communicated with us as far as statistics and things on that line, except for what was the one report that came from their executive director, which was, I'll say, a little curt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. You're right.
But my question is, was the Friends, were they communicating with the JPA? Where they give, and not necessarily about numbers, but the numbers I'm more concerned about was balance sheets. Because otherwise you would think that someone would have noticed that at the 4-month mark, they had already spent half of their money, half their resources, instead of it coming up now and saying, we need $4,000 tomorrow. Something's not right. Yeah.
Go ahead.
But Well, go ahead, then I'll continue.
So I can tell you how many meetings that I have been in, and we only met quarterly. So I can tell you how many meetings I've been, we sat, you know, with the executive director and head of the finance committee and asked those very questions.
Mhm.
And we continually were given non-answers, fluff, a lot of pretty pictures with bubbles and all kinds of things on it, you know, word clouds and all kinds of stuff. But we were never given actual financials, even though we asked and asked and asked. And I specifically asked the chair over a year ago, we need to send a non-compliance and a breach letter to the Friends of the Garden because they're not in compliance with the agreement. You know, nobody really wanted to go there. Everybody was still sort of working with each other and everything. And I think the important thing is to understand is it doesn't appear, and again, I don't want to be quoted on this, but it doesn't appear that any of the transgressions or financial mishaps or whatever exercised or basically experienced by the Friends is going to affect the JPA. In other words, we don't have deep pockets. We've been assured that. And so, you know, so essentially what it is, it's easy, it's just as easy. They throw the keys and that's it, you know? And so now we just have to decide what to do with it. So it's unfortunate. We should have, and I want to talk to or let my colleagues add to this, but it's, you know, Mayor, it's not from a lack of trying.
Well, my concern is I know that this last June, when we were looking at the budget and this item was up, at that point, we had a lot of debate on whether if we should flip the 12-month or not at that point. And that was based on not their financial conditions or anything else. It was whether if the Conservation Garden really did us any benefit at all, and or enough of a benefit to merit us putting money into it as compared to the other jurisdictions. So now we come up to the point, now we're talking about putting more money into it. It's kind of totally contradicts the discussion that we had last year where we said, let's give it one more year and make that decision next year. And now we're talking about, well, let's give them more money so they can go into another year.
Well, that's not my recommendation. My recommendation is to basically give them the money that we're contractually required to give them, and essentially provide them with an upfront loan against that financial commitment. You know, the operating agreement, again, we can sit down as a board and we can say, look, you know, you got too much to put together an operating. And one of the facets that our operating agreement is, you have to explain to us exactly how you're going to get more Sweetwater ratepayers through your turnstile, and how you're going to benefit.
If I could, I would have no problem with that if what they were coming before us is saying, we want $16,000 of your 48,000 for next year, you know, that you're obligated to anyway. But I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing, well, we got to go back to them and find out if they would do that.
Well, you know, the fact is that it's either yes or no.
Right.
I mean, as I sometimes tell my kids, or we could just not do them. You know, you want to go to Disneyland? Well, maybe we don't have to, you know? So I think that it's kind of that, you know, we have to exercise some tough love, you know? But I think that, you know, if we were contractually required to provide that money, I would have a much different story. And it doesn't make sense that we have to pay the money anyway to basically provide $48,000 into the garden that day. You know, I mean, that doesn't make any sense on its face.
Okay. So is your suggestion that we go ahead and we fund them with the $16,000 to get them through these next 4 months, but only if they are in agreement that counts toward our 48,000?
Yes, right?
No, the first two, well, actually it would only be 8 months, because if they don't meet the first milestone, and again, I'll you know, myself and you know, Director Yamani can make this case that, look, this is the stipulation of our, you know, of our financing. That's all it is. And if you choose not to do that, then, you know, we'll just wait till the beginning of the fiscal year and we'll trickle it in like the city of San Diego does. Because half the time we were always chasing the city of San Diego around, you know, contribution. And so, you know, and again, I think that the straits are dire. I don't think that they will balk at that. They won't like it. They'll hem and haw, but they'll take the money. And, you know, if they can meet our conditions, I think that, you know, they deserve another day in court, but let's just wait for them. So I think we structure this. I think that we put them on a short leash. We you know, again, we're just part of it. And so let's go 8 months, see what they come up with. 8,000. Let's see what they come up with in 2 months. We'll make the decision at that point. As long as that's okay with.
Yeah, and I just want to make a clarification or ask this question. Is it for an operating plan or an operating agreement? Because there might not be.
I would like to see the operating plan first.
Okay.
Because the operating agreement doesn't necessarily tell us or guarantee us what the value is.
Okay, just wanted to confirm.
I think the
That makes more
operating plan, which we have to have, you know, marketing and promotions to our customer base as essential. And I would think all of them.
That's it. Well,
Well, my only deal is I can go along with that, but only if it is conditioned on whatever money that we put up at this point counts toward
the 48.
our 48,000 that we're obligated for this next 12 months.
If you want to make that motion, I'll second. And that's what I'll basically carry to the JPA. And I think Director Yamani will do the same.
I would make that motion because we're obligated to make $48,000 anyway. So
Yes.
Yeah.
So I know Director Yamani, Director Martinez, and Director Calderon Scott. Did you have something to say? Go for it.
Thank you. As the alternate in the last, 2 meetings, Director Castaneda was out of town, so I sat in. And so this happened again. There's a contract that we have to follow, and we're binded by that. There's a oversight, whatever you call it, with regards to the operations. But once the JPA took a hold of it and understood what was happening, they sprang to action right away. They hired a legal counsel. They took over, the management. They released friends who cannot report as per Director Castaneda, the official documentations. And so I think as a responsible, a board here, we have a contract that we have to follow. With conditions that were stated, we cannot just say, okay, we don't want him anymore, because that's a relationship with other water agencies. That's a relationship with a college that is putting up this program for students. I don't know how many South Bay students are going to Cuyamaca College. I don't know, but these are students per se. And that's the program that you said, I'm new here, that is 48,000 that will go towards that. It's something that we have to continue. And if they cannot follow those conditions that are going to be put in place, then we have to make the difficult decision. But for right now, we gotta help. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Yamani. Director Martinez?
I have a question for legal counsel. I want to be clear. I want to understand this better, but I mean, my tough love is probably tougher. When I think about the JPIA being in charge or overseeing the Friends of the Garden, and I mean, something happened. I mean, they waited 6 years, at least 6 years. They demanded things. Nothing was given. I mean, I really don't have a lot of confidence in the JPIA. JPA. They were very patient. They were very not on it. I mean, if you ask for it 1 year and then another year and then another year and then I don't know how many, I know at least 6 years. And then we still have to give them more money. Maybe this time they will get it. And what if we get nothing? You know, how I'm gonna feel bad. Then so my question to legal counsel is, considering what's going on today, considering what appears to be a breach of, I don't know if it's a breach of contract or a breach of trust or whatever you want to call it. Are we really obligated to pay the $48,000?
Okay, so we have a joint powers agreement with the other entities, and so we are a part of the JPA, and we are member agents of the JPA. And the JPA has a board of directors. That board of directors hired the Friends of the Garden under the operating agreement. Even if the Friends of the Garden failed to provide information to the JPA and the JPA was fine with it, everything was working until it absolutely was not working. And it was a pretty dramatic, strange situation. Right. But that's for the JPA and its counsel to handle. I don't know if the JPA board might decide that it needs to disband, but I think, we don't know. There's a JPA agreement that says that we are bound to, the purposes of the JPA is to, here it is, it's to create, operate, and maintain a water-efficient demonstration garden and related facilities located on the campus of Cuyamaca to educate the public about water-efficient practices. The way that this agreement evolved, there was the idea to kind of privatize it a little bit, to have it run more efficiently and more lean. The cost that the agencies were having to contribute over the years just seemed to be continuing to go up and up and up. And the thought was that there was this 501c3 that would be able to generate donations and everything to help offset. And then maybe the more entrepreneurial management and operation of the garden might be able to offset the cost and reduce the contributions to the member agencies, be that as it may. Yeah, which is true. That's true. This agency used to contribute a lot more to the garden's operation. The way that this agreement was structured was none of the member agencies which entered into this contract, this is a contract between all of y'all that created this JPA. The desire was not to have any member agency or all member agencies basically cut off at the knees the operations of this entity. And so there was a structure to require 1 year's notice. I mean,
no exit clause.
That is the exit clause. That is the exit clause.
Okay,
Vice Chair. That is the exit clause, Vice Chair Martinez. That is what we have. All the agencies, Sweetwater Authority and the other member agencies, agreed when it entered into this contract, because a JPA is just a joint powers agency, is just an agency created by contract of the member agency. So it says that, but I don't know that, and I'm speaking off the cuff right now. I don't know that 48,000 is going to be the number next year. Because there isn't an operating agreement. I don't know if Cuyamaca the college ends up taking over the operation of the garden, what it determines its costs are going to be. I think that goes into the operating plan that Director Castaneda raised. I think there's a lot of unknowns, whether there's any recovery from the Friends, the operator under that contract. I don't know, but I do know that you entered into this contract to create this agency. It has the escape clause, the withdrawal provision. You have agreed to further the purpose of water conservation by creating, operating, and maintaining a water efficient demonstration garden, at least for a 1 year period at a time, because you can always, put in your termination notice. Director Castaneda is completely correct that you can put in your termination notice and decide down the road, no, we'd like to stay in if things turn around. But I think I answered your question. That is the escape I don't know that 48,000 is gonna be the number though next year. I don't know. Who?
I'm sorry, Director Calderon Scott, your microphone, please.
Okay, okay. I don't think there's a they. So there's the Friends of the Garden that entered into an operating agreement with the Joint Powers Agency. Sweetwater Authority is a member of the Joint Powers Agency, as are the other member agencies. So
What's the deliverable? What's the deliverable? to
operating the
us?
garden, operating the garden.
Okay, but
that
if
you
they're,
fund.
if they've gone defunct, kind of, basically, I mean, two people
But
isn't
the
really
garden,
running.
so
it.
the JPA is still in existence. And it is providing for the operation of the garden through the two employees, the two folks that they have running things as they're coming through this bridge. So, and I don't mean to try and defend the JPA, but I'm just trying to make sure that I'm making it clear. Yeah.
Answer,
Okay.
and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding your answer because you answer like an attorney, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so in layman's terms, we're stuck, right? We're stuck. I just like you
Okay.
that.
So in layman's terms, you are stuck. I don't know what amount you are stuck
I
with
understand.
because the amount that this agreement says you are to contribute in a year is tied to the total amount owed to the entity, the Friends of the Garden, under an operating agreement. There is no Friends of the Garden. There is no operating agreement. So I don't know what that amount would be. Right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And thank you. So okay. So then I'm gonna have to eat crow here and say, okay, because I was ready to say it's embarrassing for me to put money into something like this. I want distance, but if we're legally bound and obligated to do it, I'm not a believer in breaking agreements. And if our predecessors signed this agreement and we're stuck and we're obligated, then we kind of try to wiggle ourselves out. And so now I'm catching up to Mayor Morrison. I think he's trying to find a way to minimize the amount. So, okay, I'm in favor of that, to try to get it out. And if they talk about the solution, I'm okay with that. After some period, if there's an opportunity to come back after there's clarity or whatever, I'm not overly excited. I mean, I'm really, really disappointed with this whole thing, and now I'm even beginning to feel responsible because we signed this agreement. We should have put a clause in there that said that if there's any question about the operation, we have an immediate exit button. That we say bye. We're out of here, no more.
Yeah.
And
And just to clarify, just to make really crystal clear, I think under the circumstances now, other than the board deciding that they want to contribute a little bit more, you are obligated to remain in the JPA for a year past your termination notice. Mm-hmm. The amount that you'll be obligated to pay is still unclear to me.
Can I answer that? Because I think that, believe me, nobody in that room is going to want me. Okay, so I think that there's a self-governing and moderating sort of force here. I don't sense that Helix, OTI, which are the biggest contributors, clearly the city of San Diego and the county water. So that's it. It's kind of like, because I think it's kind of confusing. We talked about this last time for those of you that are not on South Bay Irrigation's, maybe soon to be South Bay Water. I don't know, but it's kind of like the agreement we have with South Bay Irrigation District. We're a JPA, right? And so South Bay Irrigation, it's always been sort of puzzling to me. We basically gave operational control and everything else of all the infrastructure and all the assets of South Bay Irrigation District to the Joint Powers. Well, if we woke up one day and we didn't think, a few of us didn't think that Sweetwater, and there's only 3 on South Bay Irrigation, was not, meeting our needs under the agreement we have, with Sweetwater Authority, we'd have to pull the trigger. I mean, pull National City or whatever. So, I mean, so, we're stuck. I mean, I wasn't around when we signed this JPA agreement. This thing was alive and well many years before we all got here. And so I think that we're stuck. I think that we can protect the district, and I hope, Mr. Mayor, that you have added that we will send a letter exercising our option to withdraw from the JPA within the year, and exercise that if things don't meet our because I'll be the first one to want to pull out, because I think it, I can't say enough about what I think it could be for folks. I mean, that's one thing I always worry about in my division. I think there's a few others in our area. I got a lot of dead lawns, dead, front yards. I mean, if people sort of poo-poo the fact that I don't like that, well, I don't like it, and I want to help people, and so I think that we can work synergistically. It's just that the Friends of the Garden have never wanted to do that because they didn't really think that was important. And all things come home to roost. And as our constituent on the town says, money doesn't grow on trees, right? It also doesn't grow at the garden either. So so anyway, I hope that we can do this. We can protect our, what we have now. I will commit that I'm not going to support a penny more on an annual basis with respect to, and the colleague, the alternate, would feel the same way. That when we start talking about, liability for the various members, I think that's what it is. And I really want to see with an operating agreement, what we hope to see when we produced our commitment a few years back, that we start to see more entrepreneurial sort of thinking and basically initiative. I mean, I can tell you right now, Home Depot and Lowe's would love to go in there, sell their products and do all that kind of stuff. And they would pay significant money because they do have a lot of people to go through those turnstiles. And we talked about it, the weddings there, and all the other kinds of special events. And all of a sudden that just dropped off by the wayside. And it got blamed on COVID. You can't dispute that. But here we are, 3 years later, and that was still the excuse. And so, maybe somebody else can do a better job at operating it. And if they can't, then we can pull out.
So. Yes. So I think we all have a lot of feelings about this. I just want to make sure that we quickly wrap it up. So Director Calderon Scott, and then we have General Manager, and then hopefully a motion by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Castaneda.
I just wanted to be clear, we vote in January, right? Whether we're going to continue or not, but we don't pay until July.
No, I believe the board considers the membership as a routine matter. General Manager, can you correct me? I think it's as part of your budgetary approval process.
It is. Previously we had to basically commit our funding 1 year ahead of time. So before July 1, we would bring this to the board as a separate item for discussion, and the board would say, yes, we want to continue to provide the funding, not the following fiscal year, but the one before. So the money that's due July 1, the 48,000 was approved June 2023. So that's the way that the operating agreement was. They want commitment from the member agencies 1 year ahead of time. That's why the exit clause, you have to tell them a year before that you intend to exit it. That's what the board would like.
And I realized that was my error. I used the word January instead of July earlier, and I apologize for that. Confusing enough. Yes. Yes, sorry.
I'm kind of like where
Call him Doctor.
Director Martinez is. I mean, I'm just, I don't like it, but if we're stuck, then, we need to deal with it. But I support what Mayor Morrison and Director Castaneda are working out, that if it's within that 48,000 and not a penny more, then
And then we have a clarification.
Can
Can I just give a Brown Act clarification? So before the board today isn't a substantive it's obviously germane, and it's fine that you guys have been talking about it, about potential withdrawal. I would still like that to be something that we bring back later, to actually take action. You can say that that's your condition, that you will place something on the agenda, on an agenda for withdrawal if the conditions aren't met. But I just want to make really clear, because I don't want to deprive members of the public the ability to come and meet and provide comment here about that particular action. So I just wanted to make that. Okay,
Makes sense.
sorry, I'll stop talking. I've spoken way too much.
That's okay, you get paid by the word.
Thank you, Chair. I think this has been, brought up, but there's an institutional obligation, if you will, through the JPA, but there's a contract. I think the next 2-3 months are gonna be really action-packed, really exciting as far as what happens with the JPA members and what the future's gonna look like. I think I go back to the comments the legal counsel made. There might not be a garden for all I know, or there could be a garden. And at that point, that's when they say, well, you know what? 48,000 is not enough. Maybe we need 100,000. Maybe we need 20. We just don't know at this point. And I think that once more information comes up, I think there'll be a good opportunity for all of you to discuss. And maybe that's not where we want to be. Maybe that's where we want to be, depending on the terms. So whether the money comes from this 48,000 we committed, really that's going to be will have to be discussed within the JPA, right? And say, okay, Sweetwater Authority, we'll give this much, but we're not going to give you anything else, right? So this will have to be discussed in that extent. Right now, I think based on the discussion, if money's provided now, there'll be a letter saying that we expect something in return, like an operating plan. I'd be happy to put that together if that's the direction you get from the board. But I just wanted to put it in perspective that, yes, there is an institutional obligation with a lot of uncertainty. So.
Okay.
All right.
Do we want to, you're in your mic.
Paula, I thought you thought you were done talking, but if I vote yes, can I vote yes for protest? Because I'm right now, I feel like I'm in the Hotel California. I checked in, but I can't check out. Right? You can in a year. So if I have to vote yes, because that's the right thing to do, can I say, okay, I really don't like voting yes, but I'm gonna do it on the protest? Is that valid or not?
Yeah, I want to do it too.
But can we kill the beast? That's the whole question.
The vote will be a yes or a no. I think that your comments will be memorialized in the video of this meeting that will be posted on the authority's website.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
Ben?
Yeah. Okay. Can I make the motion?
Move on to the motion, please.
Okay.
Director
I'm
Morrison,
gonna make a motion that we agree to contribute over and above what we are contractually obligated at this stage, $4,000 per month. Now, wait a minute.
Oh, look at what?
Well, wait a minute. In other words, this year we are contracted for 48,000. So this is over and above that. This is over and above what we are already contracted for this year to pay. And on the condition, and that would be for up to 4 months, that would be on the condition that we receive some kind of verification from the JPA that would count toward the $48,000 for this next year.
But then we also require them to
Come back with an operating
plan
plan.
an operating agreement set forth, terms of membership as rates.
I agree.
Okay, so I just want to point out a timing thing that might be important for the general manager, because I understand that Brian only indicated that they needed the money by the 15th, which is the day after tomorrow. And the JPA board is not going to be meeting before the day after tomorrow to be able to meet that condition. So I just want to make that very clear. And if that still want that to be your condition, that's fine.
That's still my condition. I mean, the deal of them giving us 2 days notice isn't our fault.
I don't think that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing that maybe you would want to add, Mr. Mayor, is that we direct staff to bring back draft letter of a withdrawal from the JP.
Then we look to put something upon a future
Yeah.
agenda about our future involvement with the garden. How about we word it that way?
Okay, we have a motion from Director Morrison, seconded by Director Castaneda. He did raise his hand. Okay, perfect. You are more than welcome to go to sweetwater.org. Look at that. Wait, are we on org yet? No, we're not on org yet. We're not on sweet.org yet, right? Oh, we are org? Okay, perfect. So with that, I'm gonna call the vote before anyone says anything.
Director Calderon Scott,
Aye.
Director Castañeda.
Yes.
Director Delgado,
Aye.
Director Martinez,
Yes.
Director Martinez Perez, Director Morrison, Director Yamani. The motion passes unanimously.
Perfect, thank you. Oh, I was thinking that, we're not a duck, because that's what it was. Great, I'm so happy that we all came to an agreement that we have to keep anyway. So with that, we're gonna move on to 9.1. Old and unfinished business. 9.1 strategic plan work plan update. This is the opportunity for the members of the public to speak on item 9.1. Board Secretary, are there any members of the public that would like to be heard?
There's no public comments, Chair.
Great, thank you. There's a continuation from our workshop. I will defer to General Manager Quintero.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to resume where we left off at the last meeting. And my understanding, if I remember correctly, is that we ended at goal number 4, and we would talk about goal 5, 6, and
A little bit louder.
sure, yeah, absolutely. We left off at goal number 4 at the last workshop. So the direction from the board was to continue this discussion and talk about goals number 5, 6, and 7. And Michael, if you can please go to page 274. While Michael brings that page up, I think our goal is to come up with another workshop to talk about the details, the detailed work plan. I think Ligia sent she sent a survey. We're looking at April 30th or potentially May 2nd. So she'll reach out again with a couple of options. We're certainly open in the morning, 10 o'clock. That's what we did last time. But if you would like to have this 5 p.m. meeting, we're also available to do that. So we'll just come up with some options for your consideration. And the goal will be to take this information and continue talking about this and receiving feedback from the board, and also come up with detailed tasks. So having said that, goal number 4 is our workforce. So go to 5, Mike, let's go down to workforce development and construction labor relations. So this one has 7 objectives, and then we're making a recommendation on objective number 6. To just clarify, I think there's the effort for diversity, inclusion, belonging, equity and involvement, equity and belonging, DEIB. This is something that I think would require some proposals from us, specific tasks. But it's certainly something that means different things to different people. So I think really looking for the conversation with the board and trying to clarify what this means, and really capturing what your expectations are and what specific action we need to take. We're not recommending a change at this point to any of the other objectives. However, at the next opportunity, this is something that if you'd like to see something different, you can let us know.
General Manager?
Yes.
I think we did do goal 5. Right?
Oh, we did? Okay,
Yeah, so
well,
goal 6.
all right, well, good. I just went through goal 5 then, and I did not say what I just said, so it's appropriate. Goal 6, administrative effectiveness. This one we do, so objective AE2, conduct master planning of major infrastructure to promote innovation, sustainability, reliability. think there's just a minor clarification, but we'll be coming up with specific tasks for the workshop. You know, what does this all mean? You know, master plans could, you know, there's a variety of things. We're doing a lot of, I know that we started on our facilities master plan just as a way to put all of our assets in perspective and put them on the schedule. You know, we have some buildings that may need some work, you know, seismic evaluation and whatnot. So that's the goal of that. And then the information system infrastructure, I think this one, which this is part of the ESRI, our GIS master plan, I believe, that we're considering.
Yeah, this a number of things. It's the IS strategic plan itself, and then also implementing the master plan. And I just changed the wording to the
Implement.
more active wording to implement instead
Yeah,
of just
good.
provide implement. I felt it was a more active word to do the object.
Yeah, so the other ones, thanks, Rich, for that. The other ones, you know, we're always evaluating our emergency preparedness. I know this topic came up earlier. We do, anytime our EOC gets activated, we meet and we figure out what we could do better. So, you know, this is one of these things that you always want to be ready, but you hope it never happens. But we do actively, you know, try to improve. And then strategic partnerships, you know, this is ongoing. We coordinate with a lot of the agencies. We were just talking about the Garden JPA. But I think overall we have a really good working relationship with our neighboring districts and really overall with the county water authority member agencies. You know, we all come from different water supplies and whatnot, but you know, we all learn from each other and we talk and we're a resource for each other. So I think that is really, really important. And that's really the summary of this goal. But again, we'll come up with very specific actions measurable. That's the goal that we want to bring to next year's detailed work plan. Something that at the end of the year we could say, look, yeah, this is what the board told us to do, and yes, this is it, right? It's measurable, and it's easier to grasp. Nothing really elaborate and long, cloudy, if you will. Any questions on this so far? I think
Yes, Director Scott.
Have we moved on to the environmental or did I
No,
get
we
it
are on
right?
goal 6,
no, go 6.
but it's okay because if we have more questions, we're gonna move on to goal 7. Goal
Okay.
7.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Goal 7.
The question I have that I don't see here is we've talked about creating a mitigation bank.
Yes. Good.
And I know I talked about it like in my first year, you know, because I've like say on the 125, I was really kind of involved in that agreement that really contributed land to Sweetwater Authority mitigation land that's there. And I know like when I worked on the Calpine project, which back then was PG&E, and we were looking to get credit. And I remember talking to Dick Reynolds and seeing, what about your vehicle? You know, can we get you new vehicles? I mean, we were just looking for opportunities. And there are a lot of, you know, within the industry of development, they're always looking for credits. Yeah. Have we made any progress in that? Because to me, there's a lot of potential there.
We do have a consultant on board now, Director Calderon Scott, for that. So it is work that is ongoing. We hope that in the next 2-3 months we present something. Our biologist, Peter Miller, will be retiring in the next few months. And this is something that he's taking great interest. And he hopes to get us to the point where we need to be with this particular project. But yes, there's been conversations with some of the resource agencies, and there's interest in supporting us in this effort. So yes, to answer your question, we are working, and we do hope to have a presentation and update to the board soon.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Look at that. You read your mind.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great. Oh, go ahead and then.
Well, that, you know, we included the rewording, if you will, in our packet. So starting on page 275 for goal number 7, and you know, as with the other goals and objectives, you know, the next few weeks, I think we already have a few meetings scheduled with staff to really come up with the details. And I think we're looking forward to that discussion, whether it happens on April 30th or May 2nd, and really get into the nuts and bolts of what we are going to do next year. That's really all I have as far as the goals, Chair, but if there's any questions on these two or something that may have been missed during the last workshop, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or things that anyone on the board wants to have? Great, and I know that we all anxiously wait for the detailed version for the next time. Wonderful. With that, then we are going to move into there's no approval direction plans and meetings and future agenda items. We will now go to 11, the delayed revenue balance dashboard. This is the opportunity for members of the public to speak on item 11. Board Secretary, are there any members of the public?
We have no public comments, Chair.
Great, and that's on page 177 on your agenda packet. If there are no comments or questions, we will move on to 12, committee minutes. This is the opportunity for members of the public to speak on item 12. Board Secretary, are there any public comments?
There's no public comments, Chair.
Great. This was an informational item only. We're gonna go to 13, report of legal counsel. Counsel D'Souza.
I will defer my half an hour presentation that I was going to give today because I know you all wanted to hear me speak more. I'm just kidding. No, I have no report.
Okay, well, today's a good day to not have a report. Report of general manager.
I do have just a few remarks, but I will not take more than 2 minutes. I promise. One is a reminder to all of you to file your Form 700 by April 2nd. Then another, just a reminder, tomorrow we'll have a workshop with the Women's Club in Alpine to talk about Loveland Trails. That is at 5 p.m. And then I did already talk about the workshop for a strategic plan. Alicia will reach out to all of you. And just a quick update on our water levels. We're about 20,900 acre feet at Loveland, about 82.3%. We're getting runoff probably about 0.2% per day, which is good. So slowly, slow trickle. We really hope that we're at 90% before May 1st. That's our goal. And Sweetwater reservoirs at about 21,000 acre feet, so about 75%. So it's good. So certainly much better than December of 2022. So I'm just happy to report that, and that concludes my comments, Chair. Thank you.
That was worth it. Those 2 minutes were worth it. Great, perfect. No reports by directors of events attendance is needed. Director's comment. I will start with my left. Director Calderon Scott, anything to comment?
No comment.
Director Delgado?
Yes, I just want to share that at yesterday's South Bay Irrigation District Board meeting, we voted to rebrand. And so we are on our way of now being called South Bay Water. So good news, very monumental. And it was an effort to rebrand, to refresh, to sort of, have more of a connection with the community. No more irrigation. So that's all.
Thank you, Director Delgado. Director Morrison?
No comments from the left wing.
Moving on to the right wing.
I just wanted to say that I'm very disappointed with the general manager. And in performance review, I said that I wanted Loveland to end at 100% full, and he's off by 10%.
How dare he?
Well, he's running out of time. You better hurry up. We wanted it 100%.
Man,
Thank you.
No comment, Madam Chair.
no pressure, huh? Director Castañeda?
I just want to wish everybody a happy National Groundwater Week.
Oh, good. I didn't know that.
There's a great infographic in Southern California in various counties and their sort of use of groundwater. San Diego County comes in dead last at 5%, where other counties such as Orange County is 75%. Los Angeles County is 50%. So the thing is that I think we're probably the only agency that's really making good use of it, so.
What place do we come in subside?
there's- We're not. We're in good shape. We have, we just voted on a study and with some consultants, they're gonna help us, resolve that. So anyway, it's, happy groundwater week.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Castaneda. I have no comments. Thank you, everybody, for your hard work today. We will now be moving on to closed session. The board will be going into closed session following the announcement by legal counsel. Members of the public are welcome to continue to stay on the line while the board is in closed session. However, they will only hear items. Following closed session, an attempt will be made to make an oral announcement of any reportable action and announcement on the time of adjournment of the meeting. If there are any technical difficulties, a written report out of closed session, which will include the time of meeting of adjournment, will be posted in the authority's website by end of day Thursday. Members of the public that would like to speak on any closed session items, please raise your hand. Or Secretary, are there any public comments?
No public comments, Chair.
Thank you. I will defer to legal counsel this.
Okay, the board will be going into closed session for only items 17.1, 17.2, and 17.3 as follows. 17.1 is conference with labor negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, with the agency negotiators being General Manager Quintero, Assistant General Manager Roberto Iano, and Special Legal Counsel Mark Bressi. But I think it's only Assistant General Manager Roberto Iano is here. Employee organizations, Sweetwater Authorities, Employee Committee. The next one is also conference of labor negotiators under that same code section for agency negotiators being General Manager Carlos Quintero with unrepresented employees. The positions listed are Assistant General Manager, Director of Administrative Services, Director of Engineering and Operations, Director of Finance, and Director of Water Quality. And the last one is Section 17.3, Conference of Legal Counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1. Amber Rec Law versus Sweetwater Authority, Rec Law et al. Versus Sweetwater Authority, both with the case numbers as specified on the agenda.
What about 17.4?
Closed session. Go in. Thank you, everybody.
Can you hear me, Michael?
You're good to go.
Okay.
All right, the board came out of closed session at 7:24 PM. Your meeting on agenda items 17.1, 17.2, and 17.3. There was no need to meet on 17.4. There is no reportable action.
Meeting adjourned.